This is a 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander, a new for 2024 large crossover taking its place as Toyota's most spacious SUV sold today. And it's something I've already reviewed. Last summer, I got the chance to drive both the hybrid and hybrid max versions of the Grand Highlander. And I found a lot to like. If you're at all curious, I do have a link to that video in the description, and it should pop up right there. But this was my chance to drive the gasoline-only version of the Toyota Grand Highlander and be able to give it my full review. Does my bike fit, for example? This one in particular is an all-wheel drive limited trim Grand Highlander, which puts it above the base XLE trim, but beneath the top-of-the-line Platinum trim. How usable is the space inside? How does this turbocharged four-cylinder cope with having to haul around a 2.25 ton large SUV and do so without any electrified help? Let's talk about it. I review all kinds of cars and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander XLE with front-wheel drive is $44,715. Jumping into this limited with all-wheel drive raises that price to $51,105. By the way, $1,600 of that is going from front to all-wheel drive. And my test car did have just one option, but 7 accessories and cost $54,321. With all that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. Looking at the car from the front, you can see that it does have a lot of the same styling cues as a standard Toyota Highlander, but it is a bit bigger, broader, and a little bit stronger looking in my opinion. And the hood is a relatively clean and simple shape with this nice bulge in the center of it right here, which flows to the top of the front fascia and the grille. But maybe you're like me and much more curious to see what's underneath it. Well, there it is, your turbocharged 2.4 liter inline four-cylinder engine, 265 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. This is the only non-hybrid powertrain that's offered in the Grand Highlander. It is transversely mounted or side to side across the front of the engine bay, so it is an inherently front-wheel drive system, but this one in particular is all-wheel drive. And finally, windshield washer fluid is right up front, easy to get right here. Looking at the car in profile, this gives you a better look at the coastal cream paint color. That is a standard paint color for the Grand Highlander, and I think it looks lovely. But as I mentioned, this is a big thing, over 200 inches long. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to check out and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Standard wheel on an XLE Grand Highlander is an 18-inch wheel, but limited and platinum trims get this 20-inch wheel. And even though it's a 20-inch wheel, you still have 55 series rubber right here, so a decent amount of sidewall to work with, not anything too punishing. Looking at the car from the back, again, it's a nice, clean, and I'll say inoffensive design, and that is something I said when I reviewed the hybrid and hybrid max versions of this last summer as well. It is standard equipment for the Grand Highlander to have a power liftgate like that, and once it's opened, you get 21 cubic feet of storage behind the third row. And a couple of subtle tugs gives you 58 cubic feet of storage and still room for 4. Pull a couple of levers on the second row captain's chairs and now you have 98 cubic feet of storage, and I would say plenty of room for my bike, but let's find out. It's a little bit narrow right here with these bins on either side. That pinches the space just a little bit, but you have plenty of length to work with, so my bike does fit in easily. It is quite spacious inside this Grand Highlander which really does make a difference compared to the standard one. So yeah, this is a perfect time to take a look inside. Okay, I took my bike out and put the seats up, except for this one right here, because I wanted to show you there's actually 3 different levers right here. If you want access to the third row, you only have to use this lever here, and that slides it forward like that and gives you plenty of access to the third row. And if you want to see how comfortable the third row is, I do a nice detailed review of that in my other Grand Highlander review, so please do check that out. If you want to fold the seat flat, you hit this lever again, but then also hit this one here. And finally, if you want to change where the seat location is fore aft, that's this one right here, slides fore aft. But I've got it to the far back position to maximize my leg room for the second row. And I am 5 feet 11 inches tall. I have headroom and I have plenty of knee room, and the seat bottoms are nice and high, so I have lots of thigh support as well. Put that all together and I have a lot less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. Also, standard equipment on a Grand Highlander are sunshades. I also have 2 USB Type-C ports as well as AC power. And because this is a limited, I also have heated second row seats and my own climate control zone right here. Of course, I get an armrest. I get my own armrest built into the captain's chair. I have plenty of space back here, and any other adult would as well, except for maybe NBA players. Because this is a limited trim, we have leather seating surfaces right here. You do have plenty of power adjustment right here, including lumbar support. Limited and platinum trims do get 2-position seat memory right here, and the usual controls on the door. You do have a few controls left of the steering wheel, including a heated steering wheel. That's because this is a limited trim. Beneath that, your fuel door and hood, and a nice little tray right there. Push button start is down here. And there is your 12.3 inch multi-information display. This comes on the limited and higher trims. On the XLE, you get a 7-inch screen and some real gauges on either side. Standard across the board is this 12.3 inch center console touchscreen. And also standard across the board is wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Also standard is a wireless smartphone charger right there, as well as another USB Type-C charge port right there. The one and only option on this limited is this panoramic view camera system right here. And if I put it in drive, it'll give you your actual camera options. And if I put it in reverse, some more camera options. Here are the first 2 zones of your 3-zone climate control system. And right next to that, you can see heated seats for both the front passengers. Those are standard. However, limited and up trims get ventilated front seats as well as that heated steering wheel I already showed you. Beneath that, we have a nice beefy and very standard looking Prindle right there. And if you go down to drive, you can then shift it over and manually shift right there. Beneath that, we do have an electric park brake and several controls right here down at the lower center console. The lower center console does have this tray right here, and that does reveal even more space, and it is quite deep. That almost goes down to my elbow. We do have a sunglasses holder, and we have lights and that kind of thing, and that's it. It's platinum trim Grand Highlanders that get a moonroof. All right, let's talk drive modes. You have several. Because this is an all-wheel drive system, you have more than just eco, normal, and sport. You also have the mud and sand, rock and dirt, and and snow and those things right there. These are powertrain adjustments. So you're gonna have adjustments to the throttle map, the all-wheel drive system, and the transmission. This does not affect anything with chassis or suspension, though sport mode might affect steering weight a little bit. And if you want to take an even closer look and see all the details of the exterior and interior of this car, I do have a separate video that goes into more detail, so do check that out. It should pop up on the corner of the screen right here, and I'll have a link in the description. All right, let's get to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, as I showed you, it is a turbocharged 2.4-liter inline 4-cylinder. In fact, it is the exact same turbocharged 2.4-liter that is in the 2023 and newer Toyota standard Highlander. Versions of this engine get used all over the place in the Toyota and Lexus lineup. In fact, and that includes the flagship sedan Toyota Crown and the hybrid max version of this very car, but with a little bit of help from electricity. The only non-turbocharged engine that is offered for the Grand Highlander is in the standard hybrid. That is a non-turbocharged 2.5 liter that helps the electric motor and battery pack. And when it comes to powering this thing, it's okay. But honestly, for something that's more than 200 inches long and can carry 7 or 8 people, having the turbo helps a lot. This gasoline-only version of the Grand Highlander gets an 8-speed automatic transmission to use. The Hybrid Max gets a 6-speed transmission, and the standard hybrid gets a special CVT transmission. And while you choose between front and all-wheel drive in the gas-only and the standard hybrid versions of the Grand Highlander, the Hybrid Max is all-wheel drive only. Oh, and so is the Platinum version of this car. And I have to say, given the displacement of this engine and the size of this vehicle, not just its weight and footprint, but just like the sheer frontal area of this thing, the amount of air you have to push out of the way, I was skeptical that a 2.4 liter engine would do the job. But I'm in the normal driving mode right now. If I just floor the accelerator, after the kickdown, I get pretty darn decent pull. That is real muscle you can feel there, despite this being such a big thing. Now, if I shift it into the sport driving mode, slow down a bit, and floor it again, yeah, the kickdown is about the same, but it's a little bit more aggressive about being in a lower gear. And yeah, the pull is more than adequate. And the response is pretty darn decent considering what this is. The 8-speed transmission shifts faster than I expected while still delivering smooth shifts. So that was a pleasant surprise. This powertrain keeps up with this big 2-box thing really, really well. And I'm quite happy with that. And considering all that, fuel economy is actually pretty darn decent. You get 20 miles to the gallon in the city, 26 miles to the gallon on the highway, 22 combined. That is the worst fuel economy you can get in the Grand Highlander. The front wheel drive does better, the hybrid does a lot better, and the Hybrid Max does better as well. I'll go ahead and put those numbers up so you can check those out. It's actually a pretty wide spread. And considering the solid response I'm getting from this transmission and the broad range of power I'm getting from this turbo engine, that's something I should note. The turbo peak comes awfully early and holds for a good 2,000 RPM. So you have a nice broad range of power and some grunt even in the lower revs, which I really appreciate. All of those things combined do give me confidence in the number that Toyota claims, that you can tow up to 5,000 pounds with this car, which, you know, isn't anything special. It's competitive with the class, but considering that we're working with a fairly small displacement engine, you know, I have to say that's pretty darn good. And yeah, I think this could do it. Now, if you get the Hybrid Max or this gasoline only engine, that's where you get 5,000 pounds. If you get the standard hybrid, that number drops to 3,500 pounds. And I have a feeling that has more to do with the transmission than the actual power output, but that's only my guess. Either way, 5,000 pounds gets you into a pretty healthy sized boat, some motocross bikes, jet skis, snowmobiles, that kind of thing, and even a small camper. But while towing may be important to some and, you know, fuel economy can impact everybody, neither of those is nearly as much fun as accelerating. You hear me raving about this engine. Of course I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test in this gasoline-powered Toyota Grand Highlander. See what this turbocharged 2.4 liter can do. I do have it in the sport driving mode, and I also have traction control off, though I am not expecting any wheel slip. That is just in case. All right, let's see how it goes. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque, about 2,300 RPM off the brake. Oh, good lurch back. Oh, shifts right around 6,000 RPM. Yeah, so we're going right to the red line right away. Good quick shifts, good pull. Yeah, this 2.4 liter, turbocharged 2.4 liter is a potent little thing. This gets us moving and gets us moving well. That is better than expected acceleration for this 200-inch long family size SUV. Toyota says that this can go 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds. And yeah, I think it did it pretty comfortably. Good acceleration. All right, let's talk chassis. Just like the standard Highlander, this is built on the TNGA-K platform, but Toyota modified it to make it both wider and longer. So we do have wider track and a longer wheelbase. It's not just the overhangs. And I did have a conversation with the chief engineer of the Grand Highlander last year at the Chicago Auto Show, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about all the work that was put in to make this its own unique thing, not just a bigger version of the Highlander. And I think it's generally well executed. It has a good, well-controlled body, but it still offers a softer and compliant ride. Now, for me personally, I would like to go just a tad stiffer because it does lean into the corners a fair amount, but considering the size of this thing, it's just fine. Overall, I actually think it's a really good compromise. Furthermore, I think the switchgear is smartly located and the screens are easy to read, both the instrument cluster and the center console touchscreen. And I have no problem reaching any of the things if I wanted a heated or cooled seat or a heated steering wheel or any of that. And the cabin's pretty well isolated as well. That's true on roads like this or on the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick test on the interstate. See how this Grand Highlander feels on the open road. But before I do that, I wanted to quickly show you something that I think is really, really cool. This right here are all the settings you have for cruise control. Well, not this stuff down here. This is related to media, but check it out. Cruise control on off, lane tracing on off, your speeds, cancel, but check this out. This is your distance control right here, and this is cruise control mode. You can change between adaptive and regular cruise control. So check it out. I'm gonna hit this button right here. Adaptive cruise control mode, regular cruise control mode. If you want to handle distance yourself, you can do that. If you want the car to do that, it'll do that. I love that. That is a great feature for this Toyota Grand Highlander. I really love the simple, easy to use option of turning on and off adaptive cruise control. Now let's hop on the highway, see how it feels. Okay, time for a quick stint on the interstate, see how this car feels. We do have Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, and that includes lots of goodies like lane tracing assist. So I will have adaptive cruise control on for this test, even though oftentimes I prefer standard cruise control. I will go ahead and put up on the screen what Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 includes, so you can check that out. Okay, we are up to speed and the cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic, and we're going through a subtle curve right now, so I'm going to take my hands off the wheel and see if lane tracing assist continues to do its thing. And oh yeah, it is doing its thing. We are staying right in the center of the road. Yeah, works great. I really like this system. We have the cruise control set at 78 miles an hour, and at that speed, the 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder engine is spinning less than 2,000 RPM, right around 1,900 RPM. So this 8-speed transmission has a nice wide ratio spread that we can have such low gearing on the interstate. And at that speed, it is very much in the background, a low hum. More fundamentally speaking, cabin isolation and wind isolation is pretty good. It's not outstanding, but it's not bad. This is a big and wide thing, so there is a lot of air to push out of the way, but it's fairly well isolated out of this cabin. I hear some rustling, but I don't hear any high-pitched squeaks or whistles or anything like that. And tire noise is pretty quiet, and it does dampen out road noise pretty well, although it is pretty clear when cars are coming by, so it's not as quiet as some things out there. As far as the ride is concerned, it feels plenty compliant to me. We're going over bumps and heaves in the road without much trouble, but even the expansion joints where you'll get a quick little lurch, it's not uncomfortable, but you can feel that for sure. Also, thanks to the lumbar support, the seats are plenty comfortable. I enjoy that, and we do have plenty of cushioning and comfort and support in the right places. And again, with the generous space, man, this would be a fantastic road trip car. So, what do I think of this 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander? This one powered by just a turbocharged 2.4 liter 4-cylinder. Well, I love the space. It's nice and wide in here. I have plenty of hip and shoulder and elbow room. I have space for stuff. I have space for people. I just have space, and I really enjoy that. The second row captain's chairs are fantastic. Very comfortable, plenty of thigh support. Again, lots of room all around, so you have just a lot of freedom of motion, and I think 4 adults would be very comfortable in this car, even for long road trips. Toyota contends that the third row is adult friendly as well. I'd push back on that just a little bit. It is certainly better than the standard Highlander, no doubt there, but I don't think you'd want adults there, certainly for long trips. Short stints, sure. And this offers better fuel economy than the 4th generation new for 2023 Honda Pilot. That's a nice little bonus. To be fair to Honda, that is a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6, so the power delivery is a little bit more linear, a little bit smoother. I do like those parts, and the Pilot does actually offer tons of room inside. It is shockingly spacious in there, even more so than this one. But this Grand Highlander also very much feels like a Toyota. It very much carries that identity with it, and it feels a lot like a Highlander, but one with so much more space inside. So that makes this the perfect SUV for people that know and like the Toyota Highlander, but feel like they've grown out of it. Maybe it's more kids, maybe it's more stuff, maybe it's both. You'll have space for all of that, and you'll be comfortable while you're carrying it around. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. Also, I do reviews like this all the time, not to mention car news and auto shows and engineer interviews and all kinds of things. So if you have any interest in keeping up with the auto industry at all, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate that. And if you are shopping around for a family-size SUV, I did mention it already, the new for 2023 4th generation Honda Pilot is also something that's definitely worth checking out. I got to review that last year, and I'll have a link to that video in the description, and it should pop up right there. Or maybe you're looking for something else entirely. Well, like I said, I have reviewed a lot of stuff by now. Something will pop up on the screen next to me. Hopefully that is something you're interested in, and if you do end up watching it, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you again for listening to my views on vehicles.